Hi, I'm Lisbeth, and this is my story. My husband and I had been married for about 3.5 years when we decided to start a family, and we were really excited. We both wanted to have a really big family, and so that decision to start a family for us meant that we were starting on this amazing journey. We felt like God had really called us both to be parents, and so it's something we were really excited about. And it took a little while to get pregnant the first time, but we ended up having a son, and we named him Levi. And we just had the most amazing experience with the pregnancy and the birth, and then his newborn stage. We had this little boy who just never cried. He was so happy from the minute we got home from the hospital. He was a great sleeper. Everyone that would visit would comment just on how perfect he was. And of course, as his parents, we agreed that he was absolutely perfect. And so right away, maybe when he was just a month or two old, we started to joke about how wonderful would it be if he had been a twin, and then we wouldn't have to fight over who gets to hold the baby, because we both always wanted to be the one that got to hold him. And so to our surprise but excitement, we ended up finding ourselves pregnant again when he was about 4 months old. And the reactions of our friends and family were really funny. They said, "Oh my goodness, already?" They couldn't quite believe it, but we were just so excited. We were thrilled because we'd had this just truly precious little newborn baby, and we were excited to have another one, to not have to share, not to have to fight over who's going to hold the baby, because there would be two babies really close together. We felt like we had just sort of jumped all into this journey of parenthood. And then when I was in my second trimester, I was about 17 weeks pregnant. I had a little scare at home. I got really nervous. I had some signs that maybe I was possibly miscarrying the baby. And so we went to the doctor and we tried to get some more information about what was happening. And they reassured me that your body looks great. You're fine. You're not having a miscarriage, which was just a relief to hear. But then they said, but there's something wrong with your baby, and we're not sure what it is. We're going to send you to a specialist. So we arrive at this specialist office and we get a look at the sonogram. We see our baby, and we can see just a precious little profile that you see at that about halfway point. And the specialist starts to explain to us what he's seeing, and to our untrained eye, we really weren't able to see these things until he started to point them out. And he went on to explain that if the baby has fluid or is taking on fluid, then the lungs are not able to develop like they're supposed to, and the strain that it puts on their heart just becomes more and more taxing, to the point that eventually the baby, most likely while it's still in the womb, will no longer be able to keep up, and the heart would eventually just stop beating. And I had gone in sort of preparing myself for maybe that the baby would have special needs or have some sort of sickness that we could solve that would just maybe have some consequences after birth. But actually hearing that the baby wouldn't survive at all was not really something I was expecting. I could kind of just feel the sinking feeling. And I remember just feeling the tears stream down my face as I thought about what this would mean. That I was carrying a baby that I could already feel and see. I had a bump that was growing. All of our friends and family knew that we were expecting this baby. And I was going to continue to be pregnant. But at the end, I was not going to bring a baby home. I was going to have to part with this little child that was growing. And I remember at the end of the ultrasound, I said, is there any possibility, is there any way that you think that she could survive this, that she would be able to recover or get better as I'm pregnant? And he said, not a baby that's this sick. He said, I've never seen a baby that's this sick that would still survive. And he said, but of course you can go home and you can pray for a miracle. And I appreciated that so much, because He didn't know us personally, but that's exactly what we were going to do. That's exactly where our hearts were. We knew that the God that we followed was a God of miracles, and then if it was His will, that's what would happen. And having a doctor actually say that was really meaningful for us, because not every doctor that we met with later would have that same reaction. It was never a question in our minds of whether or not we would continue the pregnancy or whether or not we would value her life. To us, I could already feel her moving. She had a heartbeat on the screen. I could see her face, and to us, she was our daughter. She was valuable, and we were going to do anything we could to protect her during the pregnancy, and if we could, to save her when she was born. The first week, I prepared myself. I said, okay, if there's no heartbeat, this will just be God's will, and we'll take it from there. But there was a heartbeat, and it was strong. And so that was the first week, and this went on for about 8 more weeks. And so really by week 8, I had gotten used to it, as crazy as that sounds. It was a scary situation, but had kind of become part of my routine every week to go and check on this baby. And my belly was still growing. She was still growing. And we were telling friends that, we are having this baby girl and she's not expected to live. And would you just pray for us that we can make it through this? So we went in to see the specialist one day, and the ultrasound popped up as it normally does up on the screen. The room's dark, and the specialist walks in, and this was kind of his routine. He would take a look at the baby, we would hear the heartbeat, and he would sort of just give us an update on how she was looking. And at this particular appointment, he walked in, he looked at the screen, and he stopped. And he said, before I say anything else, before I give you an update, I just want you to know I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at the baby, and her heart isn't beating anymore. And I knew it was coming. I knew this moment. I'd known for 8 weeks that this is what was going to happen. But the devastation was still there. It was unlike anything else I've experienced, of realizing that this baby that's growing in your body, this baby that you love and longed for and prayed for and were excited for, is just gone in an instant. And there's nothing you can do. Your control is just completely gone. You're supposed to be the mom, the one that takes care of your babies, but there's nothing you can do for your child. And it's devastating and scary. And I really wish that I could say that in that moment I felt an overwhelming peace, or that I felt that God was sort of guiding me through that moment. But if I'm being completely honest, I just felt complete devastation. And I just felt like, how was I going to go on? Because it wasn't over, right? I was still pregnant. And so the specialist says, what we're going to do next is send you to the hospital and you'll be induced. I just remember thinking, God, please give me the strength to get through this. It was so painful in a way that goes beyond physical pain. I mean, my heart just ached. And I remember telling my nurse and telling my husband, I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I did. I gave birth to her, and she was here. And the nurse took her and just like they do, checked her out and cleaned her up. And of course, there was no cry. And they wrapped her up and eventually brought her to me. And I was able to hold her for a while. And my husband was able to hold her for a while. And we prayed over her. And we just sort of gazed at her like you would when any baby of yours is born, that feeling of new parents, of pointing out her lips or her little belly. And we just were sort of in disbelief. Sometimes when people ask us about it, looking back, they ask, oh my goodness, how did you live through that? I mean, it just sounds like it would have been so hard. It would have been, and I often say, as awful as you can imagine, that really is how awful it was. And as much as I would like to paint it in a light of that God was there that day to sort of take away that pain or that hurt, that's just not the case. He was there to comfort, and he was there to remind us of his promises, but every bit of hurt and every bit of sorrow was still there. And I still struggled with being angry that why didn't he grant us a miracle? Why did my baby have to die? Why, with the modern medicine that we have and all of the amazing things that doctors can do, why was I not granted my prayer? And that was difficult. That was difficult at the hospital to hold that baby girl and kiss her cheeks. And that was sort of the last thing that I did before I said goodbye, was just to hold her and kiss her cheeks. And they're cold. Her little cheeks were so cold, and I remember being surprised by that, because even though you know she's not there, it's still your baby in your arms, and you still just crave for her to cry or to open her eyes and to look at you and to have that moment that you have with a brand new baby. But instead, we had to leave her there in the hospital, which feels so wrong, because you're supposed to take care of your baby, and we weren't able to do that. It was a devastating few days. We were thankful that we were able to go home to a baby and to snuggle a baby at home. I can't thank God enough for that blessing. As difficult as this is, as painful as this is, we also know the beauty of what it can be like to have a healthy baby and to bring that baby home from the hospital. And so we tried to remember that as we snuggled our little boy, and remembered that that our story can still be a happy one. We still have this precious little son to raise, and God willing, we will have more children that we can raise. But I've never had that feeling before of really longing for heaven. If you find yourself in one of those hospital rooms, or one of those specialist office, or in a doctor's office where you're hearing that maybe your baby's heart has stopped beating, or your baby has a serious complication or a terminal diagnosis, if you feel the weight of those words and you feel like I did, that how could I possibly move from underneath this diagnosis, know that you will be able to get up. Know that God will comfort you. He'll meet you where you're at, even if that's a place of anger or bitterness or resentment for what you've been faced with. He will still meet you there, even with those feelings. So don't be afraid to feel those. Don't be afraid to feel angry or sad. Lean into that and know that in those vulnerable moments, that's where you can feel his presence the most. Those are the moments where he really can speak to your heart to comfort you. He has, in a way, been in my shoes with the way that he chases after us and longs for us and hurts for us. We are his children, and so he understands a mother's hurt, a mother's longing for her babies, a mother's tears. And so I just think that even though on some days that will feel like it's not enough, on some days it will feel like there's no way God's love or promises could cover this hurt, I promise that at the end of the day, they do. His love does cover all of it. Even if it seems impossible, even if it seems like it's too big or too scary, he will still be there.